Hello viewers and welcome to part 2 of our Jann Mardenborough coverage. In part 1 we had an interview with Jann, learned a bit about him, his background, his passion for motor racing and his experience so far. One of the races where he had some success was the Nürburgring, which was being demoed on the day at the GT Academy Wildcard event. So I sat Jann down to get a little bit of advice from him. It's just a short Nürburgring circuit, but let's just take a lap of this and find out more. Okay, so it's time for a lap of the Nürburgring. Then, Jann, you've had some success here yourself as you go around the final corner. So take us through this lap and give people a bit of an idea of how to drive it.
Yeah, we're just heading down the pitch straight now into turn 1. I've been here last year actually in GT3. Got, I think, a podium here, so I think I do know it well. Sort of cut off the corner a little bit there in the straight. Down here, used to try and maximise the entry of the road. And this corner's more difficult than you look. So you just pick up quite a lot of understeer because it's uphill, and then you pick up understeer right at the exit because it drops away the road. This one's always really difficult to get the front of the car, and you have to trail the brakes in, but you're always conscious of the rear because the rear gets quite light there. Take as much curve as you can on the right. This configuration I haven't done yet, so in real life, but
this is the shorter configuration that we're doing here. Then cuts out quite a bit of the key corners.
Yeah, the fun one, the hairpin, I like the hairpin. This corner is mega. You can take so much curve here and you can run quite wide, but as long as you get back over to this side, white line it, and really get a really good exit down the pitch, down this straight here, you'll be okay.
Very precise, but it's a very quick direction change there.
Yeah, you really have to, well, in the GT car you have to use the weight to your advantage. You really have to set the weight properly, whereas say in a Formula car, you have to keep the car as flat as possible.
What was most surprising about this circuit when you encountered it for the first time in real life?
I would say the run down into the hairpin. So which corner is that? I think it's like turn 7, I think, the hairpin. But there's 2 lines you can take. You can either go in quite shallow and really attack the apex and go apex early, or you can stay out a little bit wider. The latter is the faster way to do it because you just open up the corner much more towards the exit. And the first one, you go in tight if you're a bit nervous of the rear snapping on you on the entry on the brakes, because you have to trail the brakes into that corner.
Brilliant, lots of challenges here. Well, Jann, thank you very much for your time on that driving practice.
Cheers.
So an albeit brief insight then to that lap at Nürburgring. Alas, it wasn't the full circuit they had available for us to test out, but still a nice little insight. So I had a chat with Jann. This was during the GT Academy, which has just finished now. I wanted to get a few tips out of him. What did he think of the driving style? Certainly in terms of traction control and ABS and how best to set the car up. Let's find out a bit more. So, yeah, let's talk a bit about the current GT Academy. Some tips for people, how do you set up your ABS, how do you set up your TCS and stuff like that?
Well, for me on GT5, I had TC1, no, TC off, sorry, ABS 1, and I think everything else was off, a manual gearbox. For GT6, I just carried on the same trend. I downloaded the demo like 3 days ago, and I sort of had ABS off, 1 again and TC off, and I think that is the quickest way. If you look at the top guys as well, you have a look at what their settings are, then that's generally the quickest way to get around the circuit. There's a few tweaks here and there, but I think that is the one setup to have, I think.
What about, we were talking earlier a bit about aggressive driving. Sometimes GT can be helpful with aggressive driving. How have you found your experience so far?
Well, last year, I can only go on last year and sort of what the limited experience I've had this year with 6. With 5, I was as smooth as you like. I think, okay, you can maybe do 1 or 2 laps really full on aggressively, applying the lock aggressively, and it will work. But to do it lap after lap after lap after lap, to get that consistency going, it's quite difficult to do that. Whereas if you're nice and really progressive with your steering and not scrubbing only sort of on the entry to the corners, not sort of at the exits and you got snap over steering and so on, that's not the quickest way to do it. And yeah, there are some different tactics you can do on 6, going into, say, I think it's Abbey and Farm. from and the loop, the tight right, and then the hairpin left. I mean, there's a few. I've watched a few guys replays, and they're in there going quite on the limit sideways using the rear tyres. And then you watch some of the other guys are quite neutral going through there. The car's not moving too much. And if you can do it for one lap, maybe the aggressive style works for you. If you want to do it lap after lap after lap and know where to improve, I think keeping the car as balanced as possible is the way forward, and sort of getting the car rotated in second and then quicker getting third, and then really using the power to get out the corner. And I think that's what the fast guys do.
What do you think the most time is being found by people at the moment? Is it the slow corners?
I think it's towards the end of the lap.
Yeah.
Because you can, for me anyway, I would maybe do the first 7 corners, and then if I wasn't on a lap, I'd restart, and then I'll go again. And then I'll get the first section right, and then you come to the end of the sector, third sector, and you're like, oh, what do I do here now? I can't remember. I'm not in the rhythm because I haven't done it in such a long time. And yeah, I think, and I can see it as well going through, because Silverstone's so long, and you have the first sector, you nailed the first sector, and then you go into Brooklands, you nailed that, and left field, you've got that right. Go into Cops, okay, I've seen Cops in a while, okay, I've gone through there, okay, and then you get Maggots Beckett's, and you get the left and the right, and you're sort of like, oh, how much curb do I risk to take without getting a red lap? And I can see quite a lot of, for me anyway, I think that's probably an area where at times probably go red, or people sort of go a bit cautious, or they just go completely off the track.
I always think, like you say, you come out of Stowe, you're coming towards that chicane, and you want to carry speed to it, but you've got to be slow because the car's going to understeer through there horribly.
Yeah, and you have to set yourself up for the right as well. I mean, it's the same in real life. It's only last about 2 months ago in Formula 3. Just so you're in qualifying, it's just like, oh, I can go really fast with the left, but for the right, I'm not so good. But it's only a short run to the finish line. So do I risk gaining time on the entry and then losing it for the rest, but will it be overall quicker? There's so many things to judge by.
So the final thing about this year's GT Academy, if there were some tips for people watching now, in terms of perhaps physical training, in terms of perhaps I say to people, get in shape, do some karting if you get the chance, do some driving of any kind if you get some experience. But what would you say would be handy for people besides the GT driving itself in terms of becoming the complete driver so they know they can compete?
I think what you need to do is obviously get fit, go out on your bike, do a lot. For me personally, I do a lot of running. Whatever you find more enjoyable to do a lot of it. Train maybe at least twice every 2 days or so. Really work yourself hard, because when you get to the national finals, or even at national finals, you worked hard and you pushed to your limit and over it, especially at the finals. Regards to going out and doing track driving, for me personally, I wouldn't really recommend that. I mean, what you learn at Silverstone is you're cut fresh. So whatever you learn at Silverstone is what they teach racing drivers to do. And sometimes with instruction, you get as a general public going towards these track days and so on, and with instructors in the car, they teach you the basics and they teach you the safe way. Like braking a straight line, no trail braking at all, things like that. And I mean, if you go into the competition with that mindset or with that skill set, maybe you have a preconceived idea of what you think should be fast, whereas you should go in there completely as a blank canvas, and whatever the instructors teach you, it's proper. It's what all the academy graduates we've learned from these guys at Silverstone. So I'm a bit nervous on that front. I didn't do it.
So your tips though, what would you say is your tips? If you said there were 3 things these guys should get good at the game, put in lots of laps, and then when you go into the final, keep these things in mind or prepare in this way.
First thing is just don't give up. I mean, last year, 2 years ago, when I was time trialling, I was 3 seconds off. Quite early on, I was like, oh man, that's my limit. I can't find any more. And then just keep chipping away at it and just don't give up. Days where I wouldn't go quicker, spent 5 hours a day going nowhere, and then the next day you find a 10th and you're like, oh, okay, get the ball rolling again. So don't give up. When you get to Silverstone, keep yourself to yourself. Learn every time you get in the car with an instructor. Don't act like you're the hot shot, because you're not going to be. You're definitely not going to be. And thirdly, just enjoy it, because it's a fantastic opportunity to get there. And in the first place, you've done incredibly well just to get there, just to qualify. And yeah, as long as you can sort of say, I'll look in the mirror and sort of say, I've given the 100% here, and it wasn't to be. That's all you can do. But if you look in the mirror and you sort of feel, oh, I could have done this, could have done that, could have prepared a little bit better, you're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate. You can't live. You won't be able to live with yourself. So it's all down to you personally. If you think you could be doing more, do it, because you're only end up kicking yourself in the end.
Brilliant, Jan. Well, thanks for your time. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
So some nice insight from Jan there into his experience of the GT Academy. Certainly some tips on driving, some tips on preparing for the GT Academy, certainly something for those who are making it to the final to listen to. I'll be there, of course, as well on the day, so you can expect some more coverage from that. Here's a rather interesting clip, of course, of Jan as he was at Le Mans a little while ago with some of the TV coverage and the TV commentators from Eurosport having a chat about his driving.
He's going to try, please don't make a mistake. He's actually being very cautious.
Very tidy, isn't he?
And you saw that little look. He's just checking his mirrors just to make sure that nobody's come up the inside or the outside of him as he goes through.
He hasn't conceded to anyone, and he's kept his nose clean through that first chicane. Very successful.
Exactly. No,
couple
he's
of
done
turns.
very well. As I said, the important thing is the race isn't won or lost in the first few laps. Well, it is actually lost in the first few laps if you make a mistake.
It's not won, but it could be lost.
It could be lost, exactly. So the critical thing here is just to keep your heads calm, keep your head steady, and then just start making position. As they're going to come really after the first lap, that's when you can really expect to see the moves, because now people have got their brakes and tyres warmed up and they're going to start getting into the groove.
You can just see flapping on the side here as well, Jan's tear off.
That's
just sat
it.
there.
What happens is you get so much muck coming up off the cars in front there. You just passed that other car. Well done. Whoa.
Really nice to hear the positive comments about Jan's driving. It was an exceptionally mature drive for him in a very, very challenging racing event, Le Mans. It just doesn't get any more challenging than that. So that's it for part 2. We've seen the Jann interview in part 1. We've seen a bit more introduction in terms of the game and the driving in part 2. And in part 3, just a roundup of the Nissan event which was taking place. Some fascinating exhibits inside to see. So check out part 3 for a little look at that inside the Nissan event at the O2.